Here over with the Medicare Gurus and today's dojo. This is my first dojo since back from the conference, and I don't know. I just wanted to take and get a little survey. I know you guys talked about it at length yesterday. I was actually on the floor making a sale, so I missed the whole thing. I'm not saying you're slackers, but yeah.
I mean, I had 3 before we got in here, so
Yikes.
and ran the dojo. So.
And ran the dojo. And by the way, Jacob was one of the guys who made history by making a sale in front of a group of 800 people. So that's the first ever at a conference, live at a conference, making sales. You ended up doing how many?
I did 2.
2. So we did 2 advantage plans, 2 subs, and 3 subs, and a final expense. And basically, that was within a day and a half, really, because of the time constraints of when we could do it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. And that doesn't even count the stuff we were doing at the Airbnb before the conference.
No, that got pretty busy too.
I got real busy. So no, that was exciting, and I was actually surprised. All of a sudden, I just walked by and was like, "Hey man, I made a sale." I was like, "Oh, good." No, we made 5 more before that. I was like, because I'm running around from meeting to meeting to meeting and doing demos and stuff. It's fantastic, man. You guys, we just plant you anywhere. You're like, sales and money trees.
Well, I mean, when you have that desire to sell, you can really tell.
Yeah, that was one of the things I took from the conference. Was a little bit shaky for me. I mean, it's great. You could, like you were saying before we started this, you can tell the motivational difference between the people that stayed and the people that went. Like there is a marked difference, right? However, going to the conference, you see a lot of people that are really motivated that want to go do it. But man, they do not get any. They just don't have any like the how. Of what's going on. There's a lot of younger guys in the generation. I think there's a big generational gap. Steve Montel was talking about this earlier, where there's a gentleman, I believe for American Republic. He's been working with them for 66 years. Every year wins a trip with them. He's 84 years old, I believe.
Oh, is this the guy you posted about on LinkedIn?
Yes, okay. That guy.
Steve, I do creep on your LinkedIn.
Right. And
the guy that they're going to build a statue, or he said they should build a statue for.
Yeah. By the way, I mean, people get into this business, they keep on talking about stuff like, I want to make a lot of money, I want to secure my family. How about longevity?
I want a statue.
Dang.
I want a statue.
Put me, you know what? All these speakers, all these 7, 8, 9, 10 figure, none of them got a statue.
No.
None of them got a statue.
I'm a statue agent. I go, what does that mean? I go, well, that's 7 figures I put into a statue.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's also been a big difference. Like there's a perception difference because there's been a generational lag due to the current FMO models that's gone away from actual individual sales proficiency. How do you become the best salesperson you can? They just recruit, and 10 guys out of 400 will do good, right? And that's great for them.
So, what law is that, Frank?
Price is law.
Price is law. We
got
to always mention Price is law around Frank.
Well, I like it because it's something that everyone else is like, Pareto's curve. I'm like, yeah, but that breaks down at scale.
You know what I hate is you have just drilled this into our head that as we were setting up, I was like, 20% of people are doing the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Out of all these people, there's 20%.
And that was the square root of how many people we brought.
Yep.
That's my whole point, guys. That's why small teams work. If you're actually out there and you're trying to actually set up an insurance agency, you got to be very wary of how many people you put on a team and make sure your teams are siloed away from each other so they don't start acting like the universal sales floor, because you will end up burning out your top people because they'll produce half of the square root of them is going to produce half of that actual production line. And if you lose one of them, that production, no one steps up into that role. They're just gone.
It's such a fantastic equation because when you think about it, especially in the corporate world, your goal in sales and the corporate world is not to make sales, but to climb the ladder.
Right.
Like you want to sell not to make money short term, but to create a name for yourself so that when you do sell a lot, I'm not saying that's everybody, that's a lot of those people. So what happens is that you take those top agents that have produced the majority of your business and make them supervisors. The corporate blindness is their expectation is, someone will step in. How That doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't happen.
That makes no sense.
That was what happened when I was still working at hockey. I was telling Brad this when we were driving back too. Before I left, I actually one of our old managers that I was really good friends with. I really loved working with her. She recommended me for this job opening in Tucson, and it was like the step below VP level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, director
And
level.
I was like, okay. I was like, that's a big title. That's a big jump. That's going to look really good on a resume. Okay. And so I was interviewing with it. The guy reminded me of you. It took like a 3-hour interview.
Nice.
I don't know.
It's all closing.
Ball guys loved me. I don't know why. I didn't close it too well because I didn't take it.
Nice.
But I remember him talking about it's more of like a supervisor and managerial type of role.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have been in charge of like the sponsorships and the ticket sales, doing all this here. And then at the end, he was like, by the way, you also have a quota to hit. And I was like, okay, is it just like just like icing off the, just right off the top of the cupcake there? Is that what you want me to fluff 50,000? What is it? He's like, no, you have the biggest quota out of everyone. And I go, okay, so you want me to not only have the biggest book of business in this organization, but also be in charge of everybody else's book of business.
Basically do your job and your top performer's job.
Yeah. And I go, you know what? I'm not interested. Thank you. Because it's one or the other. And at that point, I didn't really want to be in the supervisor.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Do you think that they adjusted that contract because they saw the talent that they could ameliorate the contract to get that out of you?
Oh, yeah. Within 2 years, I had $1 million in renewals.
Yeah.
And this was a $2 million generation of ticket sales.
Yeah.
So I was responsible for half and a team of 6 people. Price is law.
Oh, wow.
Price is law. But
And what happened when they lost you?
yeah, so they had me up, then COVID hit and they lost everything.
Oh, I'm sure it was
Did they
COVID.
file or did they just?
No, just minor league sports took a hit.
Yeah.
So timed it perfectly.
Well, there's also the factor of this. What are the ticket sales now?
Yeah.
Because COVID's over. And I'm guaranteeing they're probably at $1 million. Because they haven't replaced you. They can't replace you. Just turn it on. They have to go find another you.
Yeah.
You have to go find someone. You have to make those relationships, and that was for everybody in here. I started off that job as getting paid a salary of $15,000, which is below minimum wage.
The Zamboni driver gets more.
It does, because he at least gets $9 an hour.
Right.
It went from that to then interviewing for the step below VP in 2.5 years.
Mhm.
So it's you just kind of want to do the work.
Well, there's a lot of people that are okay and want to do the work, but they don't know how to do the work. The biggest problem you find out there is that no one really knows what anyone does, so you listen to the wrong people. I'll tell you this right now. There's a lot of agents going out there that have just done nothing but recruit. They're agents in name only, right? They've never sold a policy. They've recruited 5,000 agents. So they say, I have sold, $3 million worth of this stuff. They haven't. They've recruited people that can, right? Or they sold a couple policies 10, 15 years ago. Well, they can't really tell you. It's not like and from there, hey man, they're doing great. They make a lot of money. But that production gap is where it really falls apart. How do I actually make that happen? Well, that's where the old dogs used to come in. The guys have been working at it for 45, 60 years, and they were able to go through and bridge that gap. But the problem is that they had now been sequestered and they're largely ignored. And they're still doing their thing. They're still crushing it. And everyone's like, wow, that's just Tom, right? But no one's actually going, hey, go sit with that guy, right? They're coming up with PowerPoints and stuff like that. So that's a big thing, right? So it really, that generational gap is one of the things that we're really good at bridging here, but I don't see a lot of that everywhere else. And,
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is?
Well, I think we were able to maintain that generational knowledge. When I came in, I already had a lot of sales experience from various fields, but that wasn't just me. It was being able to come in and being exposed to Brandon, and it was being able to expose to Frank and Jack and John and these other guys that were here. And we're talking, for a long time in our organization, our average age was Medicare age for our guys.
Yeah.
So being able to be exposed to a lot of that, and for me personally, I was really good at doing the walkthroughs, the explanations, and I could speak with authority, and people would do that. It wasn't until they were able to go, hey, you need to start building that relationships off in that approach, because I was coming from the business world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'd go find one acolyte in a company, make him like, this is going to make you look good. It's going to help you out. It's going to be a matter of survival, all this other stuff. And he would go sell it for me, basically.
Yeah.
In that way, I was good at doing that here with like a spouse or get someone kind of involved. However, it wasn't until I really started gleaning from those guys that it's not about the product. Start talking about you, start talking about your history. I was a very guarded person when I first came on board here, right? And the guys started telling me, you have a great and funny story and you can engage in these conversations. Don't care about it. And then they'll start gravitating towards you. And repetition of that and that and that over and over again. It's unstoppable. I mean, even today while I'm testing these leads, I'm just putting up sales and, you know, we're testing new lead sources and I'm just, okay, got it. Everyone I talk to, just done.
I think I was talking to kind of Kim about that, or actually Katina today about that, is how people are so afraid to look stupid.
I'm really good at that.
They are. But the people who
Definitely don't try it.
Looking
the people exactly, just like you're so handsome. You don't need to try. But the people that are afraid of sounding or having the other person think they're stupid, they don't succeed because they'll always have this wall. I pulled probably a Frank Bryant move here telling a story today. So I talked to this lady 2 weeks before we left for the conference. Brad was out, so I had to help her out. She got a new medical policy. She just needed to cancel her Cigna policy. Okay. Her payment date was on the 26th. So they wouldn't cancel it until after the payment. So then I told her, hey, just call back in August before the 26th. We'll cancel it out. They won't draft you. We'll be okay. So this lady calls in like 2 weeks later, and I saw like she talked to Chris. She talked to Brad too. She was like, hey, I just need my policy number because I haven't gotten anything from Medico yet. I said, all right, giving her a policy number. I go, hey, by the way, did you cancel that Cigna plan? And she goes, yeah, I called with somebody, but it was really weird because of like this payment draft date. And I was like, oh, you know what? I was talking to a lady like a few weeks ago about this, how it was really weird because her draft was in the end of the month and they wouldn't cancel it. And she goes, yeah. And then it hit me and I go, oh my God, Pat, I'm telling you the story about you and me from 2 weeks ago, aren't I? And she goes, yep.
Oh,
I go,
no.
why did you let me keep going? She goes, I just wanted to see if you could remember it.
Good for her.
And I was like, good. But I was like, I feel like I was crying, laughing at myself.
Yeah.
Because it finally clicked in my head at the end and I scrolled down 2 lines and I saw the note that I left and I was like, oh my God, I just told this lady a story that she was a part of.
Yeah.
Thinking that she wasn't her.
Yeah.
Right.
She loved it.
I
didn't do it on purpose. She was laughing. So that's not even my client, but she loves me now.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and it's so important because that really alliterates. You have to get ego out of your system if you're going to be successful in any sales.
Oh, man.
You have to diversify. You can be absolutely confident and absolutely proficient and authoritative and still not have ego. You can't mix the two because if ego comes into it, it's going to come off as bullshit.
Well, it starts with ego and then it becomes pretense. And then you think that you are great.
And infallible and you can't do anything wrong.
And that's not work.
Yeah. It's never the client's fault. It's your fault. Always your fault.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
They're on the phone with you.
Yeah.
What'd you do wrong?
No, but the pretense begets that it's not your fault.
Right. Well, I mean, it goes back to what we teach here. It's like, you know, everyone's the hero of their own story.
Mm-hmm.
And when someone's buying from you, it's not your story.
Right.
It's theirs. It's the hero's journey. Right. And like you're just sitting there and you're telling the story about another person, you know, you're being a herald. Right. And you're the advisor and the wizard for this person. And they're just letting you tell it. And then you realize that it is their story because you're telling them their own story. And they're like, yeah, you actually kept it. But that was about her. And she appreciated and liked the fact that you were actually telling a story about her and not you.
Mm-hmm.
And what's crazy too, I took that logic to heart when I started increasing my file expense.
Mm-hmm.
I exponentially jumped.
Right.
Because I turned the tables on the client. I said, look, this file expense policy is not for you.
It's not.
It's not for you.
No.
And when I started to tell them that, they're like, you're right. It isn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you're paying for it, but this isn't for you.
Right.
You're going to be dead.
Right.
You have no say in what happens.
You don't care.
Yeah. and when you taught me that, like just taking ego aside, but planting the seeds that they are not the object of this policy, then they started to get it. And then I started to just be comfortable telling that story. And then it was great. It was really great.
It's a wonderful, wonderful thing that you can do just by saying, you know what, this isn't about me. Like, and really bringing it in, going, no, I'm just the guide. I'm just the guide. I'm the mentor in this process.
I thought you said I'm just the God.
Yeah, I thought you, yeah.
The guide.
I think that's a Freudian slip. I heard the God.
And closed captioning said God. Okay.
The closed caption said God.
Check it on YouTube. Thank you.
Yep.
Survey question.
You slip, Freudian slip. It's okay. We got it.
That's what I get for having. That's what I get. That's what I get for having a lifesaver.
I am a God. But yes, you're the guide in this. Please continue. Guide.
So a guide.
The shaman.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And shamans don't do a damn thing other than advice.
Right.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
You know. But the thing is that when you realize that, I'm kind of gone off track because I forgot what we did. Anyway, I'm just the guide in this.
Right.
So since it's not about me, I can make it about you.
Yeah.
Right. And I can make it about the ones you love.
Yeah.
I can make it about your life. I don't have to tell you what's important. I can listen to you and talk to you about it.
Yeah.
And then I can come off as objective. And with my ability to be a true observer of the situation and show interest in you and learn from you about what your life is, then you're going to get attached to me.
Yeah.
Right?
What's both enjoyable and frustrating to see as an experienced agent helping new agents or agents who are trying to build a career, they start out with, they believe that they're going to help this person in their way. Like I'm going to tell you what to do.
Right.
Like, here's how we're going to make it certain for you to be successful. And they go through these ebbs and flows, and it's like, they come to me and they're like, why am I struggling? It's like, well, where are you in conversations? Where are you in discovery? Are you telling them, I'm going to help you? Or are you telling them, I'm going to give you this policy? They are going to be pushed back by that. But when you start to understand, no, we are going to do this together. All I'm going to do is listen to what you need, and then I'm going to make a recommendation. And then based on my experience, I'm going to tell you, based on what you need. You've told me all these things that you need. I mean, being an expert at knowing these policies, not saying that, but like knowing how these policies work and making the recommendation, then you'll understand that that's what these people want to hear. They want to feel safe.
Well, and one of the biggest problems that you encounter is everyone wants details.
Just walk, Adrian. You're good.
Yeah.
You're good.
Yeah.
That's Adrian.
There we go.
Adrian! Yeah, so details. And by the way, my biggest complaint with a lot of coaching out there is that there's absolutely no details in how to do stuff.
Yeah.
But everyone also is looking for a gimmick. Now, that doesn't mean I can't sit there and go, here's what I actually do in a call. Mm-hmm. And the reason I do it is because every sentence I say needs to accomplish multiple positive outcomes for me.
Right.
Right?
Creating webs.
Right.
Yeah.
And people tend to focus on the little bitty things. Well, for example, when I know a sales funnel has to be very wide. Mm-hmm. So whenever someone calls me or I call them, I have to put it in their field. They have to think about this instead of just turning me off.
Right.
So I know there are a lot of people that like to get clever and go, I don't like to say this. And I understand their reason why, because, they know I don't care. Yeah, well, I do care because I know what's going to do for the rest of the call. So I start off a conversation no matter what is. Hey, it's Frank Bryant, Medicare Gurus. I'm a Medicare specialist in Alabama and got your request for help. So I'm here to help. Or actually, hi, this is Frank Bryant. And which, by the way, that's a statement, right?
Right.
Or if you can do it the really good way, which is get past that first second, because I won't get out that whole sentence if I don't do this one thing first, right? Which is, hi, Grip. This is Frank over here at Medicare Gurus. How are you doing?
Fantastic.
Good. Well, I'm giving you a call here because I'm a Medicare specialist over in Alabama, and I got your request for help.
Did you say you're Frank Bryant?
The Medicare God?
Gurus. I said gurus this time. It's on camera.
It's all right. I had one this morning that you'll laugh at where it was a website. It was called, his name was Rich. And he was like, hello. And I was like, hey, Rich, it's Jacob. He goes, do I know you? And I go, you do now. Yeah, I got you. I saw you went to the website. What's up? And he goes like, well, we just got rate increases on our Plan Gs. And I go, fun.
Gotcha.
And it wasn't like a, hi, how are you? It's Jacob. I was like, hey, Rich, it's Jacob. He's like, do I know you? You do now.
And that's the thing. So many people think that how are you or something like that that's happening in the first seconds. They're like, oh, well, the person might not think you care, or they might not like this, or I like to do it different. It doesn't matter. What you're doing is you're creating a pattern interrupt.
It's not even 5 seconds.
I have to create a pattern interrupt at the beginning of the conversation. I have to get an interaction where they can go good, bad, or indifferent, anything.
Right.
I have to get to the next 30 seconds. And that first 7 seconds, I got to sound a lot of different things at once. I got to sound energetic at first, then I got to sound serious, but I have to ask you something. I have to engage you right away because your first inclination is going to be going, I'm good, bye. Well, I have to stop that first, and then I need to get to the next 20 seconds. I don't know if you're
human. You know, I have to inject some human quality in the phone call.
Right.
And there's nothing better than, hey, this is Stephen Grip with Medicare Gurus. How we doing today?
Right.
Like, that's not a recorded call. So however they're feeling, they're going to have to respond and say, that's great to hear. Just let you know, I'm a specialist in the state of New York. I'm just reaching out to see if I can help.
Right. And also, you'll get your first objection out real quick if they're on the defensive.
Yeah.
I'm not looking to buy anything today. Well, that's okay. I'm not selling anything. I'm a Medicare specialist in the state of New York. I'm here to help you. So what's going on?
Right.
And then they go, oh, well, I was looking to buy a G plan.
Right.
And you're like, there you go.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But so many times when I tell people that, they go, well, you know, a lot of people say how you're doing, and I don't think that really works because they really, well, I do care. I do care why, not only for the fact of, A, I'm not a psychopath, B, also how you're doing right now is going to dictate how the rest of this call is going to go.
Right.
So I better know up front.
Right.
You know, so I've heard other people in the B2B world's like, they'll do clever stuff of like, you know, I'm with Dun & Bradstreet. You've heard of us, right? Yeah, I get it. But still,
God, I hate the one that's like does that sound familiar?
Yeah, yeah. How about this? You're not selling to Dun & Bradstreet. You're selling to Mike over in the marketing department at Dun & Bradstreet. You might want to go ahead and get him on your side and ask about him as a human being because he's worried about some stuff at his job, and you can fix that. You know, those are all kind of things in there. So these old techniques, and by the way, that's an old technique. It has been A/B tested over 200 years. We've been selling stuff in this country since before it was a country. That's what we're founded on.
Yeah.
That's right.
So are you
some tea?
Generational knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Right. And that's how the British look. Would you like some tea? We're like, no.
Yeah.
If they start off,
Oh, great for you today.
how are you doing today? Oh, I'm a little thirsty. And then I have some tea. You know, that might have actually stopped that. But the issue that you run into is that these old dogs that are out doing their own thing, they're being ignored, right? They're not able to pass on that basic knowledge. And what happens is you have recruiters that haven't done it, and they're trying to get clever. They're trying to make talking points. And what they're doing is they're muddying the water of what actually works and what is a real, genuine human interaction. And if we don't turn that back, right, we're already on the precipice of this. We'll have a generation of people that we will step back in proficiency on everything in this country, including insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes bad because I've dealt with a lot of countries and a lot of salespeople and, you know, account managers from all over the world in my previous jobs, and they're awful at it.
Mm-hmm.
We are the best. That's why people come here to learn how to sell. That's why people set up high-end centers here. They're not doing it in the Philippines. They're not doing it in India. They're not doing it in Vietnam or anywhere else. They do it here because that high-end stuff is just as simple as talking to, you know, Miss Mothersby across the table, but they don't get it. So I think we should I want to reach out to some of these old timers that are running around.
What's the root cause? What's the root cause of people just the race to the bottom?
It's going to be a little bit, this might anger some people, but I don't care. We have completely marketers themselves and recruiters themselves have injected themselves as sales experts. And because they can recruit a lot of people, right? They haven't sold a damn thing themselves. They, in turn, co-opt that production of their own people in their downline and say, I have sold 10 million. They haven't sold a damn thing. They've recruited people and contracted them. So when they go, oh, you sold 10 million, what's your secret? They make shit up. They go, or they read a couple sales books and go.
They talk about what it takes to recruit an insurance agent whose job is to talk to people like that.
Right. And then they don't listen to that insurance agent.
Right.
And those insurance agents, we're talking about that gentleman that Steve was writing about in LinkedIn, 66 years in the business. No one talks to him. He wins a trip every year. That means he's in at least the top 5% of that company, right? Every agent should be shadowing this guy constantly, just watching him and just soaking it up. No one's doing it. There are people who've been in this business 45 years. And it's like when I first came in, I was proficient in sales, and especially business to business. And he was asking, well, how were you different? Well, I was surrounded by Brandon Todd, Frank Todd, Jack Adams, John Hogan, all these guys that were old timers. The average age of our agent back then was Medicare age. And they were, right?
Close.
We were getting close. Yeah. I mean, they were,
I was 30.
Right.
I was pulling that down a lot.
Right. But we're talking about, but even in your journey, your father is one of the best salespeople, period, I've ever met in my life. And I've met greats. Right. It was just, I didn't even really get to talk to Frank that much. I was just constantly in awe, just listening to him constantly. Put that there. Don't even try to analyze it right now. I don't have the proficiency right now to understand what he just said. I'm going to remember it and I'm going to study it. Right. But those issues and where that is drawn out is now we have a very big proficiency deficiency, and it's bad. And it's going to get worse outside of the area where people know how to communicate that and go, hey, this might seem vague, but the point is that you need to be open to a large funnel. You need to be able to customize it to where it's natural to you. And you need to understand, you need to get that ego of whatever you think is clever out of your head right now, because there's some basic stuff we know works. And I'm sorry, you're not going to go trump 200 years of development on just one single line. You take in the millions of people that were contributing to this at this point, you're not going to outdo that knowledge base. And because it's just basic human behavior is what we've mastered. And we're not going to fight evolution. So yeah, it's as simple as asking, how are you doing today within the first few seconds, so that they have to answer. They're going to say something. It breaks that actual.
They're also conditioned to answer.
Right. They're conditioned to answer. We're social creatures, and societies do that. Every culture, when you meet someone, you say hello and you ask how they're doing. In a lot of Asian cultures is, have you eaten yet? Right? That's how you say things, and that interest goes, okay. And then they have to. They're just conditioned. It's like a convulsion. I'm good. How are you?
So you're tapping in just by doing that, the psychology, you're tapping into automatic behavior patterns and responses from them that they have with people that they're close to.
Right. And the only thing
it's a little different than, hey, what's your Medicare number?
Right.
Yeah, what's your social?
And the only thing that trumps in the human body, autonomic responses, which is basically regulating your heartbeat and your breathing, the only thing that trumps that are the actual interactions that drive societal integration in our brain, because that's our ultimate survival mechanism.
You sound brilliant when you said that. Where'd you get that from?
Lots of research. Also, there's some studies on like the wall about like social pain and social interactions and how that your brain is conditioned because you do not have survival tools yourself. You have to be in a group to survive out in the wild. So it goes survival. That is instinct. That is fear. That is it. So all these little things, we think they're just niceties, right? The politeness, the nicety, the manners. No, those are survival tools. No one just sat there and said, oh, yes, well, humans should just do this. So do this. And that became a rule. No king determined that. These are like before we had speech, we developed these things. So we better stop ignoring those and stop trying to be really clever and disseminate bad information, because we're breaking a system that works really good. If you can tap into it, you can learn from guys that already mastered it just through repetition. My God, you are unstoppable.
I think a lot of it goes to, you need to become comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
To not be afraid to, again, like I said, kind of mess up earlier, but be comfortable. I had, bless his heart, Stefan, I'm trying to work on loosening him up a little bit, because he's got a great personality, but he gets too analytical sometimes. So I was helping him on the phone yesterday where he was just kind of like walking all over him. I'm like, look, we got to get control back here. We got to get control back. We got control back. And that's when we went into the discovery part of it. And he goes, Stephen asked him, how healthy are you? And he goes, pretty healthy. I think you weren't in here for this. This is a top 10 line of all time here. I made a little recording mark too. Mm-hmm. Stephen goes, how healthy are you? And he goes, I'm pretty healthy. Immediately, with how comfortable I am, I spit back in the headphone. I go, well, my wife's pretty too, but only after
I remember I was after
a
heard
few
that.
drinks.
I was like, ooh, I'm telling.
And he was like, Stephen's like, I can't say that. He's like, I can't say that. And it was like, that's the difference there is. Right. If somebody's like that, because it turns out that guy had cancer.
Right.
That's not healthy.
Pretty healthy for dying.
Pretty healthy, yeah. But it's something like that I can immediately just how my brain works and say, yeah, I'm pretty healthy. I can spit that out.
Yeah. Well, you also queued up immediately on, oh, you just gave me a relativistic response.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You said, I'm pretty healthy. Well, compared to what?
Mm-hmm.
If someone goes, oh, I'm in great shape.
I'm pretty thin compared to somebody who's 500 pounds.
Right.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So when someone says, I'm in great shape, or I'm doing great, or I'm in good shape, or those are declarative statements.
Mm-hmm.
But when people qualify what they say, or if they say, I'm just healthy, I'm healthy, good. Pretty healthy, doing all right, feeling good, feeling healthy. Ooh, there's something there because humans don't like to lie. Right?
Well, especially to a lot of those people, they're not expecting you to ask about it. There's certain things that they don't, like I was talking with Kim and Christine here today too, and kind of what they're doing. It's actually something really good to bring up here too. But hearing for those cues on when to execute. So if you're going through the presentation, if they say, this is awesome, I love it, let's do it, go.
Let's get you qualified.
Yeah.
Go. Hit the enroll button, start the application, do whatever you have to do. They are already in. You don't need to talk more about the plan.
You talk yourself out of this.
Or talk more about the decision. Correct. It's like I was telling them, then it gets to a point, why do they keep asking me if this is okay?
Right.
Like that's one of the questions. The phrase was it? What did you used to say, Kim? That I loved. A free policy review.
Oh yeah, that's your favorite
Free policy.
statement for me.
But then I hear, is that okay? Because I hear Stefan say it a lot too, where he's like, well, what's the name of your inhaler? If that's okay. And he goes, no. You have to understand. You are the expert here. You are in control. You are steering this ship. You are driving this conversation. If I'm asking you what your inhaler is, I'm not going to ask for your permission to ask you a question.
No, I don't have to.
Exactly. I do not have to. So this says, this sounds good. You say, are you sure? Or, hey, I think this plan is going to be good for you. Is that okay? No. It's the best plan out there is what I'm going to recommend. And that's your option.
And anytime you ask, is that okay to anybody, whether it's older or even children, like even with my own kids. If I go to my son and say, hey, Connor, you're going to be going to bed at 9:00. Is that okay? He's going to be like, no, I would stay up late.
Or you order a Dr. Pepper and they're like, is Pepsi okay?
Yeah.
Right.
No.
And immediately you go, no, in your head at first.
No, I don't want your dirt water. No.
I don't want that. Right.
Mr. Pibb.
And that's already is going to
Speak broke.
yeah, it's already going to trigger a frustration with me.
Yeah.
So that's why asking, is this okay? It's detrimental to the conversation.
Well, here's the thing. You were saying something very, very true earlier, which is being relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
You actually can look at not just human behavior, but mammalian behavior in general, right? What does the biggest gorilla do or the biggest chimp do? Right? The silverback, the alpha.
A lot of anthropology today.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we are,
Jane
right?
Goodall over
Yeah,
here.
boys.
They don't do
That's why
much.
we go there.
They're relaxed. They're very relaxed. Everyone else is trying to establish their hierarchical order and the stuff, and they're just like, that's cute. And then they're just sitting there, right?
Yeah.
And lions are the same way, hyenas are the same way, humans are the same way. When you relax and you just be you,
Mhm.
people will gravitate towards it. It's everyone else that's beating their chest and running around in circles and and doing this, or catering to people, pleading with people, trying to reassure people. They're the ones that aren't getting anything done. They're not the ones that are establishing the hierarchy, or at least the peerage.
And talking about Stefan for a second, you know, he has good days and bad days with his experience, but I just don't think he quite gets the repetition factor of it yet. You know, like he knows he's getting better, but he's getting better because he's giving himself more reps. I'll see him walk around and think and contemplate, because that's his style of thinking.
That's great. That's wonderful.
But it's hard for him to understand that when Jacob or myself go to him and say, hey, get back on the phone. You know, like there's no better way to learn and get better unless you're on the phone.
So I have a question. When he's thinking, he's being contemplative. Has anyone actually stopped and asked, what are you thinking about?
I did.
Yeah.
All right. What is he saying?
All the time, yeah.
What is he saying?
He's thinking about
Plans and Sunfire. And
he's thinking about
how to be more efficient in the system. And I
Yes.
go, and then we reiterate the best way to get efficient
Practice.
to get somebody on the phone and do it.
Right. And there's also another thing is that you can't get so caught up in the technical processes that you lose the human interaction.
Yeah. Agreed.
Right? You have to engage people. This is a people business. They've been trying to automate us out of this forever, and they can't, because people don't buy important things through machines.
Right.
You don't buy insurance through Amazon. Trust me, they've been trying.
Right.
People
They
don't
just
do it.
Amazon just bought a company they're trying to conflagrate the insurance buying product
Right.
experience.
Your old company tried it. Where'd they end up?
Well, they attempted, yes.
Yes. Because you can't force people to do something that they don't want to do. And I'm sorry. What's up?
I was just going to say that in the conference, Ed Milet spoke about that people buy love and happiness.
Right.
So you cannot
Feelings.
replace that emotional connection with anything. And also at the conference, they talked about don't make your relationships transactional, because that feels cruddy. You want it to feel authentic and sincere. And I think that's what everybody's talking about. So whether it's from a sales perspective or a marketing perspective, the human connection and communication is the most important, because at the end of the day, you're in the business of people.
Right. Well, and this is the knowledge gap that I talk about, though, is that we can all agree that those are the right things to do. How do you do that? Right. And it's very simple. Ask questions that have nothing to do with your product. Ask about them personally. Ask someone, if they're retired, what did they used to do for a living? I've been on the phone with guys for hours, right? And sold them, all their family, and all their friends as a result. And we're talking about how they used to be heavy equipment operators, or they used to be septic system maintainers and installers. You know how long you can quote unquote shoot the shit about shit? It's a long time. Done it. And well, it's true, but there's a pride in what people do because they identify the value that's there. Whether they're parents, you want to talk about their kids, right? They'll tell you what they want to talk about. They'll let that door open. They'll tell about their experiences.
I think it's also about, kind of piggybacking here, it's also about your inner self doing that at the same time. So it finally clicked for me in almost 3 years now. But I know when I'm making a mistake when I'm talking. Like yesterday, prime example is, this was like 3 or 4 different phone calls with this lovely couple that was referred over to me. The wife is already retired, but she's turning 65. So she has this option for retirement coverage. That's like $50 a month, and the deductible is like $1,500. So you're thinking, okay, that's not too bad. And I told her, look, if they just give it, if you don't have to be on Medicare, you can just get your Part A and take that. Like, that's a great plan. But then I told her, you need to find out from the benefits, see if you do have to be on A and B, because then we add in the Part B charge and everything. And so we were going through, and a Plan G for her, she was in Texas, it was like $99. And so I kind of did like the final expense thing. I was like, all right, get a piece of paper. Let's write down these numbers here. So we have $57 for $1,500 deductible. We have $99 for $233 deductible. Then somehow in my head, I got sidetracked and I go, write down $37 and then $24.90. And then it took me a few seconds and I go, why the hell did I just tell her to write down what a high deductible was? I haven't gone over it. I haven't done anything. I was like, maybe in my head, I'm just trying to find like a cheaper option.
Mhm.
And I was like, you know what? Draw a line through that bottom one.
Right.
That was my fault. I shouldn't have brought that up. That's my fault. I'm sorry about it. And then in the presentation, guess what? They go, man, it looks a whole lot better, this $99
Right.
and having a lesser deductible
Right.
and being good. And I could have thrown all that off and I said, we're just so confused. We're going to think about it. But I was able to catch myself in the conversation go, why did I even do that?
That's the question you need to ask yourself.
Yeah.
Because also look at the person you're talking to. Someone who retires early is just now aging into Medicare.
Mhm.
You really think they need to save those few pennies?
No.
You think they're looking for a better convenience and ease of use?
Mhm.
rather
When it
than
comes to their
dollars?
health,
Right.
Mhm.
That's a person that plans ahead for the worst.
Mhm.
And that goes into the other thing about
or
aspirational.
they've seen it. They've seen
So
family members
Mhm.
struggle.
this is the thing that I talk about a lot that really angers a lot of people. And because it angers a lot of people because it goes to the substance of why people make decisions. We talk about love and, in my life, they're great guys, right? Love, people do buy off emotion. That's all they buy off of. They don't buy off facts. They don't buy off any of that other stuff. Different part of the brain does that stuff. But when we look at things that are unifying constants, that if you understand this, you can make a connection with anybody. It's not love. It's not dreams. It's not hope. It's fear. Fear is the one constant. It is the source emotion. It's a survival mechanism. It developed before there were even mammals, right? It keeps a lizard alive. It keeps you alive. Now that is fed by your pain responses, goes into your amygdala. That's where all the fear is actually stored. And then it goes and interprets that and it creates all sorts of body reactions. Go, that's not good.
Fight or flight.
Fight or flight.
Yes.
Right. So when you look at that, when someone tells me in my brain, I've asked this question. So I can ask you what your fears are. Like, I don't like talking about fear. That's how powerful it is, right? But when I hear someone go, well, I want my son to be happy. What you're telling me is, I don't want him to be sad. I don't want him to be miserable. I want my family to be successful and taken care of. You don't want them to be left out in the cold. I want to make sure that I can go see my doctor. You don't want to lose your doctor, right? What's a more powerful message? So, by the way, this isn't a new concept. We've been electing buffoons in this country for 2 centuries because they understand that concept of what's really powerful. Very rarely do we have anyone that's at a leadership potential that comes up and can actually win off aspiration. Everyone else wins off protection, right? And it's cynical, but it is what it is. And even in certain things of like infomercials, cheesy infomercials, you don't think they work? They're $1 billion industry. All right, they're selling towels for $49, for God's sakes. Sham Wow? You kidding me? The Slap Chop? OxyClean? It's what?
Who wants
It's detergent. It's laundry
Seems
detergent.
like you buy a lot.
But
Yeah.
that's
No, what I would do is
You're that guy, aren't
I
you?
used to
Go to bed earlier Friday.
I would fall asleep on the couch.
Loves those Frank Thomas commercials.
I would fall asleep on the couch, and then like one of my first experiences were like, that's good. It's Billy Mays. Because I'd fall asleep on the couch, I'd probably have a bag of potato chips or something, just like an otter. And all of a sudden you hear, Billy Mays here, and wake up in just a cloud of Cheeto dust and hate. Like, what's going on? What's happening? And then they would go through this, and here's what they would always do. And it works, it registers. Because I didn't have any need of that, but at the end of that, I'm like, I do spill a lot. Right? Because they go, are you tired of this? And I'm like, no, but now I am.
Right.
Right? They don't go, never have a spill again. They go, you have a problem.
Right.
This fixes problem. And it's getting a customer and having that conversation to articulate it that does that. So when people talk about that, you don't have to go, oh, what you're really worried about is fear. You don't want your son. You go, okay, let me go ahead and key that in later. So the question I'm going to ask is, do you want to go see any doctor? The question I'm going to ask is, do you want to keep your doctor? Question I'm going to ask, if you need to go see, do you want to go see any specialist? No. Do you want the insurance company to tell you who you can and cannot see? Ooh, I don't like loss of freedom. Loss of freedom, that's a big thing. And that's all fear is. It's a perceived loss. Loss of health, loss of limb, loss of life, loss of loved ones, right? So if I do that and I ask you those questions, you're now placing an order. Whatever I'm going to spit out next is the only thing in the world that's going to fix all of that. And you don't have to know it's fear to know that it makes you feel a certain way, to know that those things can now be resolved.
So let me ask you this, if I don't see it that way,
Mhm.
because I mean, you're making sense,
Mhm.
but it's a very, very grim view.
No, it's aspirational. My job, I have the best job in the world, dude. I resolve people's fears and make them a little lighter for their life. I make them feel a little bit better because that thing's not a thing for them anymore. That's great. And it's way more impactful. I mean, think about it. Insurance is a lottery you don't want to win,
Right.
right? That's all we do. We sell a promise backed by a company
Yeah.
that when shit hits the fan, they are there. And they are going to write the check. They're taking care of you. Insurance.
It's a loss mitigation factory.
Right. And what is a loss? How does a loss register for somebody? It's a fear system.
Mhm.
I fear loss. I fear loss of freedom. I fear becoming a burden, which is a loss of value to the group and the tribe,
Mhm.
right? I fear loss of revenue. I fear loss of financial stability. I fear all of these things. If you want to tell someone, hey, you want to make some more money? Or how about this? You don't want to live the rest of your life poor, do you? You don't want to keep struggling.
Right.
What do you want to leave for your kids?
Stephen, what's your opinion on this?
No, I mean, I'm just trying to see the other side, because although, I mean, I totally agree with this perspective.
You don't have to.
No, I
You
totally
can
agree
debate
with
me
it.
on it. It's okay. That's what this is for.
Yeah. I feel that that's just, I mean, that is a very effective perspective.
Mhm.
But also, I think there are other ways. I think there's another way to look at it. I think it could be more optimistic. I think it could be more subjective at times, where we could say to the client, you know, how can we make things better for you? Not that there's a loss, but it's like, you're doing well right now. How can we make it better?
Well, here's the thing. They can be doing well, and even the wealthiest, most happy people I've seen still fear things. That's one of the reasons that they've accomplished so much.
Yeah.
Is because they're prepping and they're engaging in systems that actually avoid bad outcomes.
So we talk to a lot of people who are financially unresponsible.
Mhm.
You know, they just have had, however they handle their finances very poorly, you know? It's unfortunate. So for me to say to you, hey, do you want to make your life less sucky? Here's how I'm going to do it for you. You know, like, my approach, although that may be in the back of my mind, I'm not going to talk to those people like, hey, you make $700 a month. You know what? Let's expose that fear even more. I'm going to get you something that is going to be a lot less fear mitigated.
Well, how about this? If you don't have anything to lose, what are you afraid of losing?
Right.
Right. Well, how about the other side of that? If I'm on a low-income subsidy, or if I'm qualified for a DSNP, and I am currently on a plan that does not offer me a flex card or food assistance,
Right.
right? I'm entitled to that.
Correct.
And if I don't get it and utilize it, what have I now done with that benefit?
Lost it.
Yeah.
Right. So the conversation, you can literally do this and talk to people and go, hey, we all know that if you don't get this and you don't use it, you lose it because you're not accessing it, and it's yours. So let's go ahead and get that fixed. Let's get you on that plan that does that for you because it's available to you.
Mhm.
What else do we need to make sure we have taken care of?
That's the kind of fear I like to use. It's not necessarily like you are going to go bankrupt.
Right.
Come
We
in here.
don't-
No, it's FOMO,
Right.
fear of missing out.
Right.
Where there's different types of fear. It's not just let me scare you
We
to where
don't.
you got to call Planks or Planks.
Do not
Frank's plumbing business.
Yeah. Do not manufacture fear because that makes you a jackass.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was getting at. That's what I was.
Yeah.
I don't want to manufacture fear. I
No.
don't want to use it as a crutch.
No, you don't manufacture fear, right? Just like you can't manufacture someone's dream, which, by the way, people's dreams are informed by their life experience and they aspire to, because usually, like, I know a lot of people that aspire to be wealthy. Almost universally, we grew up poor. We don't want to do that. We don't want our families to go through that, right? One of the things that drives me is fear, is the prospect of my mom dying penniless and alone.
Mhm.
So one of the things that I've done throughout my whole life, so I got to make sure I set up my mom, she's not going to a home. That's driven me.
Mhm.
Now that's not a negative thing, right? That's an aspirate. I got to make enough money, make sure no matter what, she's good, right? Because I'm not going to have that happen to her. She worked way too hard for me growing up.
Right.
So I don't have to manufacture anything. And if you listen to your clients and you engage them personally, they will tell you what they're afraid of. And then go at it from the approach of, let me take away that fear.
You're not manufacturing the fear,
Yeah.
you're just listening to it. You know, that, and you're doing some reflective listening, you're listening to your client, and then you're able to derive what it is they fear and how to solve that, and that
Right.
minimizes the anxiety.
Which
Right.
is what we talked about yesterday.
And they live
With the lady who hated the government. It's
That's
because
right.
she wanted to be in control. She was feared to lose her freedom.
loss of control, right? Loss of freedom,
Mhm.
loss of control.
Yep.
And that's why people are afraid of prison
Or being broke.
or being broke. By the way, being broke is an absolute loss of any mobility.
Yeah.
That is a prison in and of itself.
Yeah.
That is a driving thing. And it's okay to talk about these things. But you're not going to sit there and go, they're poisoning the water and they're going to eat your babies and they're going to do this. Don't do that. You know, that's preaching to a mental illness at that point. You're just, you're trying to do that. And that's a very bad thing to do. And that's overly cynical. And I hate that. But I want to talk to you about you as a human. And when, like, you're a dad, man,
Mhm.
right? What do you want for your kids?
Opportunity.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I said that we're going to put your sons are going to not end up, right? Your sons are going to be where they're going to be.
Mhm.
But we should probably work on getting them into a situation where they have as much opportunity as possible so they
Right.
don't lose any avenues for being successful and happy in
Yeah.
their future. You'd be like, oh shit, yeah, I got to set them up.
Let's do that. Yes,
Right.
Correct.
Versus, your son could be an astronaut, right?
Right.
Why?
That's meaningless.
Right. That's my point. There's a fear that you have.
Yeah.
You don't want your sons to be on a back foot. You don't want your generational prodigy to go backwards. And that's something I hear from all fathers in particular. They're like, I just don't want my son to be in a worse spot than I am,
Mhm.
because then I feel like I failed. That's a fear.
Yeah.
So, all right. So how do we work on that? In fact, we saw that at the conference a lot. A lot of dads dragging their teenage sons, like, come see what dad does.
Right.
A lot of kids were just completely disinterested. But ultimately, when you talk to those guys, go, here's the bottom line. Do you want to go ahead and sell like a whole bunch of D-SNPs and make a lot of money real quick? And then are you trying to just build some money right now? Or do you want to build, and like the
I can see.
do you want to build a wealth generating machine that you can pass on to your family that'll work long after you're gone?
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is that, hey man, your son's not going to be a pro gamer, right? We know this. I don't have to say it, but yeah, that's why you're dragging him to an insurance conference.
Right.
So how do we build the engine to where you can do that, so we can alleviate that fear? You don't think he's going to be able to have direction, or he's going to be able to make it himself.
Yeah.
But I know it sounds cynical, but it's not. I'm just trying to figure out a way to make people's lives
the
better.
root of why I wasn't pushing back on it. I think the root was I just didn't want the exposure of fear to be exploitative. I didn't want it to be a manipulation.
It already is, man. It's been, and by the way, it's not a new thing, right? When they sank the Maine in Spain, that's really true. William Randolph Hearst was sitting there saying, Spain's going to invade Florida and they're going to take your stuff. And that's all it was, right? The imperialists are going to try to do this again. This isn't a new thing. Media's been doing it for years. Now it's to the point where we do it to ourselves on media,
Mhm.
right? And now, there's a fear of being wrong, right?
Mhm.
Because we know that ultimately being wrong consistently damages the group, and the group would expel us at that point, right? If we were just in normal dynamics without social media and stuff like that, being exiled is the worst thing you can do to somebody.
Right.
In fact, that's why exile was the worst form of punishment, even above capital punishment or execution in the ancient world, because you're going to die bad.
Oh yeah,
Bear's
that's
gonna come
like
get you.
if you read all the Greek plays.
They'll like, please just kill me now,
Yeah, like,
because I am not going to last more than 3 days out there. I'm going to
Right.
die of dehydration. You know, a lion's going to eat me
you're
alive.
gone.
You're gone. We're going to watch you from outside these walls get eaten by every nasty thing out there,
Right.
because you're a pudgy, soft-skinned, you know, no teeth having, no claws having human
Right.
alone.
Yeah.
So, so that's the thing. So when we look at that, there's a lot of, and that fear of being expelled has led to social dynamics that happen, and also the way we interact with each other. So that's why you can see the chemicals react in the, you know, if you go to an EEG electroencephalogram, when people are going through social dynamics or even pain themselves, that's why your brain can't tell the difference between social pain and emotional pain and physical pain. It reacts the exact same way. So that fear is already there, right? Except for a very small percentage of the population. And it's already codified. Now, we're not talking about exploiting it or manufacturing and adding to it. That is horrible. But finding out what registers for that and how I can make that better.
Yeah.
That means I win and you win, because I have alleviated a problem for you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that requires conversation. That requires deep conversation. And really it requires listening. So it's not cynical. It is absolutely used cynically, right?
Right.
I mean, just look at the state of where we are right now. We have taken that and gone to the 9th level. And with the it used to be small little courts. You'd have little cults, like doomsday cults, right? They would be extrapolating value and money from a small cadre of people. And they were actually just trading on fear and saying, come follow us, we'll get to the spaceship, whatever it was, right? Now that has been blown up on a national level to where if you have a powerful fear-driven message and you're manufacturing fear, you can make $500 million in a few years. Right. So you're not wrong on feeling about that.
Right.
And by the way, you're afraid of being that asshole.
Correct.
That's okay.
Yes.
I don't want to be that asshole either.
I don't.
But that doesn't mean that the human behavior isn't like that. The reason that works is because that exists. And that's an evolutionary tool over 5 million years you're not going to get over in a day. So let's use it the right way. Let's understand and identify stuff and go, this is how you make the decision. This is how I can get you to make a decision and benefit your life.
Like I said, you're alleviating anxiety. That is a positive. That is a benefit.
And the fear of continuing to experience that anxiety
Right.
is what will drive that decision. You want to feel better, and you feel better by eliminating problems.
Yeah.
And your problems are registered as problems because of your fear centers of your brain. No one's ever really afraid of something unless it's dangerous.
It's threatening.
Right.
Right.
I'm terrified of bats because I don't like rabies.
Yeah.
So
one.
it's past one, but we'll go over for a little bit. I just keep on getting people calling.
Yeah. Oh, it is. Yeah. Okay.
But I don't know, man. What do you guys think about that? Am I off base on this? I feel like I'm preaching and I'm not engaging in too much conversation with you guys.
Yeah.
I feel bad about that.
Yeah.
You're so new here. Tell me something.
Well, I just wanted to sit in and join because
Talia, can you move closer? You're out of.
By the mic. Just move.
Everybody, Talia.
One more chair.
one more.
Thank you.
So everyone who doesn't know Talia is a social media expert. She's a ninja at it. So how does that idea, like, how do you register anything like you see in the social media environment? Because I know that's a dumpster fire in a lot of cases. What do you think about all this?
Well, people are down on social media lately. They feel like it's bringing them down because they're talking about things that like the news is talking about. And so they feel a lot of negativity going on it. So I think when you're in the social media business, again, it all comes down to that you're in the business of people. And it is about reading what people are saying and extrapolating that information It's the same thing in social media, extrapolating that information and turning it into a positive that is going to help somebody. So selling or marketing or posting on social media, it's all the same thing. You want to really hear what people are saying and then put back out there what is going to reduce, alleviate, put people at ease, because there's so much of the other stuff. I don't feel like you were preaching. I feel like you were getting to the core of human nature. And I can speak for myself and say, when anytime someone can alleviate my anxiety, whether it be about my health care or something else that I'm concerned about, my life is better. A lot of people go to counselors for this exact reason. So if you can provide that counseling for somebody and give them the right plan that's going to alleviate their fear, or I can put the right thing on social media and start talking about those things, then you're helping people.
Mm-hmm.
It's not manipulating or exploiting. It's doing the opposite.
Right. I mean, that's what I feel like. I mean, you have to understand your enemy. My enemy is fear.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to use that fear to take away fear, because that's how I sell stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And even when I first got on Marine Corps, I sold cars. I knew that if I went through, right, and I didn't really know it, but there was something I was doing, and I hadn't figured out why I was doing it. It worked a few times, and I was like, oh, I'll always do that. This is years before I figured out the concept. If I was with a husband, I'll talk about what the husband wanted. If I was a husband and wife, regardless of what the husband wanted, I would go through and do the walk around, start off with the engine, but then I check out those crumple zones. Those crumple zones right there are great, because if you get hit, because we all know you're a safe driver, but if you get hit,
Right.
this deflects that force of that away from the cabin
Right.
and around, protecting you and your kids and your loved ones.
Yeah.
Look at these little brackets in the chairs, these seats. And by the way, all cars have this stuff.
Right.
Little brackets in the seats are reinforced, so you can actually put the child safety seat in there. It's going to be secure, so that kid's going to be safe no matter who hits you.
Yeah.
Look at this A-pillar on this truck. This A-pillar right here is double reinforced. So again, if you get hit, that goes around the cabin, or at least protects whoever's inside, because we don't want you guys getting rattled around like that.
Mm-hmm.
All these things, and by the end of it, the guy's sitting there going, I think it might be all right, but man, I tell you, if they're looking at starting a family or doing that, it was the safety that sold the vehicle, not the utility.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're not lying to them. You're not doing this. And you're not saying, hey, you need to be worried about this. What you're doing is you're addressing something that they don't articulate fully themselves, but they feel it.
Right.
And that's what that is.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just feel so good about
Is
it.
it true that the safety outsold the utility of a vehicle when you
Yes.
sold cars?
If you were talking to someone that's going to be a family,
Okay.
it's that value proposition. If
Yeah.
their plan is to have a family, or they already have one,
Mhm.
like even you, man, you talked about this yourself. The moment your kids were born, your brain switched.
Oh, it did.
You went from like, nope, protect this,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And those are key. That's, again, evolution.
Yeah.
So while we look at this protective measure, and by the way, love, all these feelings of oxytocin, dopamine, all these things, that's why all babies look the same, because you go, please don't eat that,
Right.
right? Spend time with it, feel good about it. Humans by nature, the vast majority, vast majority, give kids far more credibility than they do, or far more leeway than adults, because we're programmed to go, they're learning. Spend time with them.
Mhm.
For men, you got a boy, you play with them. Physical play. It's how you actually establish interaction, right? Even before they can speak.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So all of these things go into that. So we already know that the human brain is a very advanced, dumb thing.
Right.
Right?
It's an advanced,
Dumb thing.
chaotic thing.
Yes.
Steve came up with one of the best classifications of a brain. It was something like a something neurochemical process.
Yeah, a macroeconomic neurochemical process.
Right. And I was like, that's perfect.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And I thought, and that's the thing. It's incredibly intelligent by design, but dumb in use and implementation.
Yeah.
We don't understand it completely, but we do know enough to go, hey, your pain center is also your executive decision center. It's called the dorsal cingulate cortex and cingulate cortex as a whole. All pain goes through it. And that's also where you make your decisions. Why is that? Well, I need to make a decision that I'm on fire. Probably need to put that out before damage happens.
Yes.
Or, ow, something poked me. Don't do that again. It goes into the amygdala. Well, if all of the decisions go through this thing, which is your pain center, and also ties into your fear, groups. That's why they talk to each other. Maybe we need to know that is, and also that's at the most root of the limbic system. That is the first things that developed outside of just like the thing that keeps your heart pumping.
Mm-hmm.
Then maybe we should talk to the core of what humans are.
Mm-hmm.
They avoid pain because pain causes damage. They're afraid of the damage. They have to get to the point where they can go ahead and pass on their genes. To do that, you have to survive. Route one. Now you go, we passed on genes. Maybe we need to give our children the best chance of being successful. Let's go ahead and develop these pair groups. Let's see what a family, over time and millennia, millions of years, social structures, family units, all these things kind of grow, right? Longer gestation, longer development of children, because that made a better chance of survival and therefore passing on.
Mhm.
And then those people that survived did that again, and that's how you evolve. So we've evolved to be social creatures because of that.
Survival itself has evolved.
Right. Survival itself has survived. That's wonderful. And now it's more complicated, but ultimately speaking, even these other emotions, they came after fear and they're built off of it. Your feeling of love is to prevent a feeling of loss because you now protect it,
Mhm.
right?
I think once you reduce that fear, then you have room for those other emotions like the love, like the happiness. My background,
Or even just ability to enjoy them,
right.
right?
My background is not only in healthcare, but in music journalism. And so during COVID, everything was shut down. All the shows were shut down. Everybody was in fear. All the happiness was shut down.
Mhm.
And so now that we're able to get back to it, and I promote bands on social media and things like that, I'm giving them that chance to move from fear and back into love and back into those other emotions, that are outside of that core that was existing.
Well, and that's incredibly important because a lot of people say, money can't buy you happiness. And I say, well, money eliminates a big chunk of fear.
It
And
helps.
multiple things. And just like you're saying, now you have more time to enjoy the things that you love.
Exactly.
You fulfill. And by the way, you can lead a very fulfilling life when your cup isn't overflowing with anxiety and fear.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
And my God, if I could just take a little bit of that off of you, then I've won.
You breathe that sigh of relief and you have more room for all the better things.
Right. And not only can you spend time with the people that you love, but you can enjoy the time because that's no longer the back of your head. You can be present. If I sell you a Medicare supplement plan G, your health is no longer an issue, period.
Man, you just hit the nail on the head. Being present is so hard when you are burdened with fear.
Right. It's impossible because you're fighting a survival mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what survival. Step one, live. Step two, figure the rest of stuff out. Right? So that's a big key on it. And by being able to do what I do, this is one of the only things that, I've been good at sales in lots of industries. Who cares if, Dell Computers gets another warranty contract, right? But I get to affect someone's life in a way that they'll never fully understand, but they will feel better because of it. That's cool. So yeah, I eliminate people's fears. And that's why I think I have the best job in the world.
I love it. I love how you brought it to that core emotion, and it's not a negative thing
No,
at all. It's a help.
everyone fights me on it. I'm like, I got science to back it up. Go look at the Dual papers on acetaminophen. Right? No, I do. I mean, Simon Sinek, who's great, especially on leadership concepts and why great leaders make you feel safe. He did a great TED talk in 2009 about start with why. And he breaks it down to the golden circle, and it's really rudimentary, but he goes, yeah, the limbic system is where you have all your emotion and stuff like that. And I was like, that's good, but even that's not deep enough. And I know he's a smart guy. He didn't just want to break it down to where it's a cynical message,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's feel and aspiration. It's fear. They registered and said that things cannot be the same way as they are, and I will not have my family go through this and my children be in the same situation I'm in. That's a fear thing. They do.
So let's all be problem solvers to fear, so there's more
Right.
room for the good stuff.
Right. Or at least we just feel a little bit better. We'll live a little longer and a little happier.
Exactly. Any incremental positive is actually a big win.
Right. That's it. And by the way, people go, well, what if I sell tools? Well, tools build houses, right? Well, yeah, because I want a place to live. No, you just don't want to be in the rain.
Exactly.
That's it. You don't want to be in the elements. That's why you have a house.
That's right.
Because everyone else builds a house and they go, I wish my house had a better view. Well, you know, it's a great view outside. Try living out there.
Right.
I've done it. It's hard. That's why. I mean, but that's the thing. And it doesn't have to be cynical. It doesn't have to be cynical. It's such a wonderful way to understand when you start understanding people. I mean, FDR said it really well. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
That's right.
And that was
I did in my 5th grade classroom and never forgot it.
well, think about that message though. We are programmed to not like fear because the things that make us fearful hurt us. So he was with that simple line,
And hold us back.
right? Prevent us from aspiring,
Mm-hmm.
right? But with that simple line, he was able to talk to everybody because he was able to go, well, it's not fear of this, it's not fear of that, it's not fear of taxes, it's not fear of gun rights, it's not fear of, whatever, free speech or whatever. He goes, it's just fear. Let's worry about that. Everyone's like, yeah, I get that. I hate fear. We all do. We should. So let me just take away a little bit of that from you.
Perfect.
So, what do you got?
I'm good.
Well, I guess
Learned a lot. Thank you.
oh, no problem. Well, I guess that takes us to the conclusion of today's dojo. Do me a favor. If you're watching this, which I think there's probably like 5 or 6 people, come on to our Insure link and go ahead and comment on it. I'm thinking about starting a dojo group there. Just post on Insure link if you think we should actually do a group about dojo conversations. That way we can have like a encapsulated thing. And I'd love to start a debate on this stuff. I want to have interaction. Also, I mean, should we have live feeds where we talk to people and they can submit their comments and questions, or however we need to do this?
I was just gonna say this opened up the perfect opportunity for on social media to hear your comments on it. How did you feel about this kind of debate about fear versus, not manufacturing it, and what was at the core of it? I think this is a great debate.
I think so. And as we debate, we learn more about each other.
Exactly.
And we can actually become better salespeople, better insurance agents, and
Better marketers.
better marketers. That's a big one. So, yeah. So, all right, guys. Well, we'll see you later.